There we go. We should be live now. Do we have Dr. Lawlison?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm here.
Yes. So everyone here? Okay.
Let me take down the share real quick. All right.
All right. Well, good morning, everyone, and Happy New Year. Happy 2021. I want to call this special board meeting to order at 10:02. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Ms. Ibarra, would you mind leading us in the pledge?
Please place your hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
And to
the republic
for which it stands one nation
under God, indivisible,
indivisible,
liberty,
and justice for all.
Thank you, Ms. Ibarra. Okay, before we get to our public comment, I just want to say a little bit of an announcement. We struggled whether to have this meeting in person or virtual. We wanted to provide all segments of our community equal access to engage in our meeting. Because of space restrictions due to social distancing guidelines, we felt this could best be accomplished in the virtual setting. Thank you for understanding. Now, Ms. Now.
Thank you, President Pollack. It's time for public comment, and we are going to hear from our associations first. And I will begin with CSCA Chapter President Lorena Lopez. Good morning, President Pollack and school board members, Dr. Buenrostro and Cabinet. I hope you all enjoyed a wonderful holiday season. As we are very aware of the surge with the increase of COVID cases, CSCA Chapter 369 is very concerned. As classified employees, we understand we are here to serve our students, staff, and community. We want to be the best employees for CNUSD. Trying to survive in very treacherous pandemic has really kept all of us very worried and troubled about dealing with this deadly virus. To my knowledge, we have one member fighting for his life due to coronavirus. Please note this happened without the full amount of students back in school. I fear to think what it will look like with a larger population of teachers and students back on campus. CSCA Chapter 369 would appreciate the decision for the January 19th reopening date as recommended by our superintendent, Dr. Buenrostro. We will continue to pray that the vaccine is successful and eradicates this horrible situation. And from our CNTA president, good morning. First, I would like to thank our board. Whether our views align or we respectfully agree to disagree, each of you have remained dedicated and committed to your positions through this unprecedented time. Being a leader during this pandemic requires a level of understanding, courage, fortitude, and decision-making under pressure that is far above and beyond the call of duty. Thank you for continuing on courageously. The past few months, we have heard public comment from various members of our school community who have shared their personal stories, their perspectives, and their expectations for the district in the opening. Some fear the opening of schools until the pandemic is over. Some want schools open regardless of the pandemic or potential cost, and the silent majority falls somewhere between those two polarized positions. Our community, our state, and our country remains divided by opinion. Trauma and loss has taken over logic, and we are experiencing threats, harassment, resistance toward empathy, and attacking one another solely because we do not agree has become commonplace. So what then do our leaders do? We must remove the trauma of the pandemic and approach this decision for our schools as we would any other decision outside of COVID. When we can't find congruence in the school community, we must turn to the remaining factors to craft our solution. We must rely on facts, guidelines, research, budget, and resources as our guidance. Last week, a few additional facts were introduced following our board meeting. Governor Newsom provided new guidelines, safety measures, and testing protocols must be changed again to meet those measures. Funding to provide more support to our students will be available if we comply with the updates, and the strong recommendation was that schools must begin reopening, but in a phased model at the 28 case per 100,000 people per day mark. Riverside County reported we currently have 140 cases per 100,000 people per day. We continue to have no capacity in ICUs, hospitals, and are struggling to provide adequate care amid the uptick in cases. And Riverside County had 2 children ages 12 and 15 reported among those lost through COVID. And third, the new strain has arrived in California and appears to transmit through children more quickly with greater efficacy than the prior strain. You are aware that CNTA did not oppose the waiver application in October. We did not oppose the selection of reopening dates in November. We have committed ourselves and worked together to create a plan toward the safest way back to in-person instruction for our students, staff, and community at large. But today, we ask that the board consider the timing of implementing our plan. CNTA is not arguing a subjective viewpoint or proposing an opinion this morning. This is not the time for votes and opinions. No matter how you feel, there are simply no beds for the sick, and we know more interaction means more sick people. It's the difference between practicing the trapeze over a net or knowing a fall is going to occur, but choosing to work without a net anyway. The risk analysis has shifted since the board's decision in November. The safety guidelines have changed, the virus is changing, and we must apply the newest data, guidelines, and information available to our decision-making if we want a successful and sustainable reopening. Again, thank you so much for your dedication and comment during truly an unprecedented and challenging time to be a leader. And now I move on to the comments from the public. At this point in our agenda, we invite the public to address the board per board bylaw 9323 regarding meeting conduct. Public comment at special meetings is limited to matters appearing on the agenda for the special meeting. Government Code 54954.3. Today's only agenda item is the following: reconsideration of decision to start in-person instruction for grades TK through 6 on January 5th, 2021 and January 12th, 2021 under the approved TK through 6 waiver. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. However, please note it is the board's purview to adjust the time to hear more speakers. I remind the audience that this is a public session of the board and not a meeting of the public. The board will not respond to speakers, but staff members may contact speakers or follow up with written communication. The time limit for a given topic is 20 minutes, regardless of the number of speakers. Comments will be read in the order they are received. If there are 2 opposing views to a given topic, minutes per side will be equitable to both sides unless one side submitted fewer comments. For today's meeting, President Pollack, we had 914 comments submitted. Of the comments submitted for public comment, 179 are in favor of TK through 6 grade students returning to school beginning January 5th for year-round and the January 12th for the traditional. We had 698 comments expressing a desire to delay the returning to school starting next week. There were 37 comments that did not pertain to the item on the agenda. So we encourage the public comment to provide comments at our next general business meeting on January 19th for those comments. And just a little flavor of some of those comments, they had to do with return of high school students, high school athletics, which would be appropriate to give comment at our general business meeting for those topics that are not on this agenda. So moving forward, Mr. Pollack, I would like to respectfully ask to change individual speaker time to 2 minutes so that more comments can be heard with the 20-minute time limit. Are you okay with that?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Excuse me. Excuse me, Mr. President, can I say something? I think with that amount of people wanting to speak and sending us all the comments, I think tone it down to 2 is a good mechanical approach, but we're going to miss a lot of substance. I think instead of cutting it to 2 minutes, I think we can extend it to 30 minutes, at least cover as much as we can to really provide the substance of what these 914 residents are talking about. So that's my opinion.
Thank you, Dr. Lawless. And with all due respect, we've all received all these emails and a lot of them are very similar. So I think we understand the message. I think with Ms. Now telling us that there were 698 and 179. I think we understand that, and we will take that into consideration. But I believe that keeping it at 20 minutes so we can get to the business is appropriate.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Gonzalez, if you could time the individual comments at 2 minutes, and please time 10 minutes for those. I will start with those who provided comment in favor of returning to school. And then at the end of the 10 minutes, then we will move to 10 minutes for those who want to delay the physical return of school.
Yes, I will do that.
I will just be reading away until you interrupt me and tell me that either individual time is up or time is up.
So,
I will do that.
so President, I
Yes,
hate to say this, but I want to know, how did you choose at random? Are you randomly choosing the comments, or how did you do it?
I believe I stated that they were taken in order received.
Order received. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Are we ready?
Yes.
Okay, so our first comment comes to us from Jennifer Volovic. The elementary TK through 6 waiver was already granted. You held a board meeting for more than 2.5 hours last Monday, and a decision to open elementary schools January 5th and 12th was made. Please continue to honor and follow through with your vote made less than 1 week ago. Please give students, parents, and teachers who want to return January 5th and 12th the chance to. Do not take away our voice and choice again, please. Students' mental health and emotional well-being is suffering. The kids are not okay. Schools need to reopen as soon as possible. Students are failing in academics. They're suffering from anxiety and depression, and there have been student suicides. This will continue to rise the longer we're out of the classroom. Students need to be back in the classroom for in-person instruction. Remote virtual online learning is not working. It has already been 9+ months, going on 10 months of not going to school, which is ridiculous. If you look at statistics and data, children are hardly catching the virus and somewhat immune. Plus, the survival rate of anyone catching the virus is 99.8%. If some parents don't want to send their children back, they can keep them doing virtual. However, please, I beg, let the students and parents that want their kids back at school to go back. This has gone on way too long. It is unheard of. If we care about our community and students, we need to listen to our students and parents' voices, not bureaucratic politicians, and not be controlled by the teachers' union. Thank you for understanding, and please do not write that right thing and let our students go back in person instruction in the hybrid model. Please open the school back up for in-person teaching. I have experienced firsthand physical, emotional, and behavioral disorders this lockdown has brought on our children, as well as us parents seeing our children sparkle, fade away. This will already have detrimental effects on our children's mental health. Please don't add more. If some parents or teachers are not comfortable going back in person, give those people the option to stay home, but please allow us. They want to go back in person to go back. I don't think we can take more of this emotional roller coaster. And that comes from Arlene Corum. From Ashley Rondon, Orange County Public School System has had their students back on campus for months now with hybrid model. They have had very minimal cases, and they're posted on their district's website. This is no reason our school district can't do the same. You are creating a have and have-nots catastrophe. Children's transmission rates are very minimal, which has been scientifically proven. With children following safety measures, wearing masks 6 feet apart, only 2 hours a day, they're safe to go back. It is no different than shopping at Walmart, the mall, or the grocery store. The children need to go back in the classrooms. If you aren't comfortable, stay home. Allow the rest of us to have an option. From Teresa Inthafong, our children 9 years old and 11 years old have been at home for close to a year now. They have not been able to socialize or go do activities such as soccer teams, theme parks, etc. They were accustomed to prior to the pandemic. I see a huge mental health depression issue, not just in my children, but children of all ages. One of my children, 2 years old, has attended private school continually through the pandemic with no issues and is thriving. He is filled with joy and proper safety measures are set in place. My children are ready and are excited to return to school. From Lindsay Jack, the flip-flopping of both parents and students is emotionally draining. The numbers are high and will still be high by the end of the month. The governor wants the schools to open by February. CNUSD appears to have a safe plan in place. It is time to open. This will be at least the third time we've told the kids they're going back to school and now have to tell them they're staying at home again. I believe the kids can follow safety protocols. My own children can wear masks and distance better than most adults I've seen. As a parent of a child who receives the special education services in the general education setting, it's a grave letdown because my child will continue to not receive the services she needs. We have been told that she can't get her speech consult services until back on campus, and deaf, hard of hearing has not settled a contract to provide the necessary FM system for use with distance learning. It's been a struggle all year and will continue to be until they negotiate that. These are not going to be district priorities until the students are back. Please allow the safe reopening of schools. Stop with this already. You yourselves commented on the district continuing to flip-flop. Reminder, this is still America. You say follow science, yet no one wants to address facts that COVID is not known to be a cause of spread in schools. Clearly, you can even look at other states. It's a virus. It's not going anywhere anytime soon. Wake up and let our damn kids return to school. Keep yourself and your family healthy, but be responsible, and for God's sakes, let our kids live. From Brianna Moreno. From P. Koenke, schools should open. As a teacher at Highland Elementary, I know that in-person instruction can be managed safely. Trust the procedures that are in place. While I understand the concern regarding COVID spread within the community is very real, I am also extremely concerned about the impact that keeping our kids out of school for so long will have in the long term. We are not thinking about the impact that school closures will have on their future. The impact on their learning will now have devastating effects for years to come. This will push California's school even further back in terms of academic achievement and well-being. I strongly suggest the board consider how to get our kids back in school as soon as possible, with safety measures in place, and not put our kids' social and emotional well-being at risk any longer. Thank you. And that was submitted anonymously. From Jennifer Peterson, if the meeting is to change the vote that happened last week, please do not change the plan. Kids need to be back in school, and you have advocated, discussed, and voted to reopen. This is a small but huge stepping stone that can be done because we have spent millions on all safety requirements at each school, which is way above what any other open establishment that families are visiting have done. Do not cave to the angry outcry from those that had a choice to choose virtual learning up until December 8th, when we keep in mind numbers were already on the rise and the vote to return has already been approved for January 5th or 12th, depending on school. Parents have multiple choices for months to make changes. Please do not take away the choice that we parents made to return to school as soon as approved, which has now happened and been approved twice. We can't handle going back and forth anymore. Stand your ground. The vote was made. Families have been communicated with. Thousands of children have been told they are going back and are so happy. Don't crush them again. And keep in mind, we have lost more students to suicide in the last 9 months than we have to COVID. The kids need this. Thank you. From John Robertson, enough is enough. It's time to get our kids back in school. If not, then it's time to talk about a reduction in the taxes that I pay for unused school facilities. I also think it's time to talk about salary reductions for percentage of teachers whom are using the pandemic as an excuse not to return, but still want to enjoy the full benefits. As a taxpayer and a father of school-age children enrolled in CNUSD, I honestly feel like I'm being duped by these shenanigans. From Serena Smith, this yo-yo back and forth is nauseating. Parents have a right to make a choice for their child's education needs. Stop blocking our choice. Distance learning is failing for numerous kids. You know this from grade reports. This is actually nothing compared to the mental health damage that is being caused. These kids need a lifeline. Stop throwing to them and yanking it back away. Stand up for our kids, even if it means taking heat from others who have the choice to go virtual. We are left with no choice if you don't open the schools. From Melissa Rex wrote, Dear Board, this back and forth is absolutely insane. While I do not support the hybrid model of only 150 minutes a day, I do believe kids need to be back in school. And if we aren't going to demand a better schedule and MOU, then we need to at least start somewhere and get these kids back. The safety measures are in place. Figure out a way to let the parents who want their kids to stay home to do just that. Those that want to go back, let the kids go back. I believe in letting us have the voice. Please stop giving these kids hope only to rip it from them at the last minute. I do not envy the decisions you have to make, but you were elected to these positions to make hard decisions. Please get our kids back to school. Thank you.
Judy, we just so you know, we're in the last 1 minute and 30 seconds of the first 10 minutes.
Okay. Members, this is from Jesse Wetzel. Members of the board, I ask you to stop playing ping pong with our children's emotions and stop kicking the can down the road. Open TK through 6 instruction as scheduled. I understand other concerns about the state of the virus. Prior to the start of the school year, parents were given the choice between virtual instruction and a return to campus as soon as it was safe. Data shows that young children are not spreading the virus and that children can be open safely. It is not our fault that some parents who choose to return to campus are now regretting their choice. Don't punish my children any longer. Still more time?
Yes, we have about 45 seconds.
Okay, from Casey Caffrey. My son needs to be in school in person. I understand not everyone feels the same, but as a parent, I believe we should have the choice of what is needed and what is best for our children. We as parents should be the ones choosing if they are virtual or in person. For our family, in-person school is needed. You have a legal responsibility to provide equal education to every child. And I can tell you the special needs children that are mainstreamed are not getting that. You owe it to the children in this district to give them the opportunity to receive an equal education. Whether it is virtual or in person should be the choice of the parents, not a school board of 5 people who have never met my child or seen our situation. You have set in place precautions that will keep the kids.
That is the time, Judy.
Okay. Right. Give me 1 second to move to the order of those that were submitted for no. Okay. This comment comes to us from Marjorie Nakamura. Please reconsider reopening dates as we currently in a surge within a surge. I understand the importance of going back, but we need to do it when it is safe and the virus is more controlled, especially now that we have a new variant emerging. Please reconsider. From Jennifer Aguna, I'm urging you to please reconsider your decision to open right now. I have never felt more unsafe than I do with how horrible this virus is, and to reopen at this point in time is the worst decision possible for everyone involved. Please hold off. For 2 hours of learning a day in person isn't worth throwing out children and the teachers in so the virus can run rampant through our homes, community, and already overrun hospitals. Keep remote going because it's the safest, and consider reopening when it is truly safer to do so. Thank you for your time. Jennifer Aguna, parent of 2 elementary school children. From Vivian Ringen, as a teacher in CNUSD for the last 32 years and a constituent in the trustee area held by Dr. Lawless, I want to go on record as being opposed to going back to in-person instruction at this time. My 88-year-old mother-in-law lives in my household. My 83-year-old mother depends on me to take her to doctor's appointments and grocery shopping. If I must go back into the classroom, I will need to isolate myself from these family members. The risk is too great to the community at large. I love my students and I do want to get back to normal, but at what cost? Kids do not often show symptoms even when carrying COVID to others. Many of my students have grandparents and great-grandparents living in their homes. Is it fair to expose them? I hear that if we go back, I must keep my classroom door open for ventilation. I haven't had my door open since the shooting at Sandy Hook. With my door open, a person standing on the street could shoot directly into my classroom. No one would even know where it came from. All of this and more keeps me awake at night. I want to experience this class in person, but my fear for the safety as well as my entire school community is even greater. Please rethink the risk to students, staff, and community in your decision. From Sonia Fregoso, please do not open schools. I'm very afraid for my child's safety, for us, his parents, and his grandparents. Please do not put us in danger. Wait till it is safer to do so. I'm considering not taking my child to school if you do reopen. It's not safe for anyone. From Terry Sanchez. I'm a 6th grade teacher in the district. I want to be back in my class with my students, but not at this point of time with our emergency rooms at full capacity. I would urge the board to postpone our return for at least 2 weeks to give time for the COVID-19 numbers to go down. Also, at the meeting on December 28th, there were a great many parent speakers that were high school parents. This decision is not affecting them at this time. I would hope that you would limit comments to elementary parents and teachers. From Jennifer Hawthorne, I 100% want my children to return to school when it is safe to do so. It is not currently safe to do so. We are in the middle of a surge and we are so close to having more people vaccinated. Let's wait until it is safe, especially when that is so close. On top of that, like it or not, tons of people traveled for the holidays. Even more did not travel, but still got together with family. Right now, our children have been exposed to roughly 10 households, plus or minus. Returning on January 5th does not give them the opportunity to quarantine for 14 days. I'm for returning to school when we are out of the surge and I have more people, and we have more people vaccinated. From Nicole Delaney Melendez, with the global pandemic at an all high right now, why in the world are we opening the schools right now? I have much anxiety about this, even though I feel my son does better in school. I just don't believe it is safe. From Kevin Cray, as a teacher, I understand how important it is to get kids back in school. I understand the many issues associated with keeping children at home, but at this time, the risks just don't outweigh the rewards. Simply put, will putting kids back in school for 2 hours a day for a few months really help parents go back to work? Or will keeping our classrooms open and risking more infections, deaths, and hospitalizations hurt their chances of being able to go back to work as we suffer through the endless shutdown after shutdown? All of this without even mentioning the strong possibility of our district having to return to remote learning once a large enough percentage of our children, support staff, teachers, parents, and community members are needlessly infected from being in the classroom or being exposed to someone who was. Is 2 hours of in-person instruction really going to improve the education your child is receiving when most of us are actually giving away more than that remotely? Is physically being in school and sitting behind a desk shield for 2 hours without any recess or meaningful social interaction with their peers really worth someone's love, one getting sick when we have a completely viable alternative? Trust me, as someone who has firsthand knowledge, the physical return to school that some of you are picturing in your heads is simply not grounded in reality, nor is it a magic bullet that is going to solve the many issues that are associated with teaching during a worldwide pandemic. As stated above, in order to keep everyone safe, the kids will be in their seats behind a shield and not going to recess or playing handball with their friends. It will be 2 hours of straight curriculum as we try to cram in everything we need to teach. At this point, I know some of you might be thinking that teachers and families were given a chance to go virtual. This is not what the letter is about. Going back into the classroom is a risk that everyone in our community, whether or not they signed up for remote or virtual learning, with 0% of our ICU beds open. This decision affects everyone from nurses and doctors to business owners and the elderly.
That is 2 minutes, Judy, for that comment.
From Yancy Cabello, I'm a mom of give me 1 second. I'm a mom of two boys. They go to Orange Elementary. In my opinion, I think it is not the right time to reopen the school district. COVID-19 is now worse than ever. I would like send my kids to school. It is not safe and it is impossible to keep kids apart. They do not understand. From Jill Reese. This is my 36th year teaching, and every day of this school year, I have taught through Zoom alone in my classroom. I agreed to teach the remote traditional program because I desperately want to teach my students in person. But I agreed to that program because I believe my school district and my school board would bring us back to our buildings when it was safe and not in the middle of record numbers of COVID-19 cases. Please reconsider your decision to begin in-person instruction at this time. when our hospitals are facing dangerous staffing and ICU bed shortages. Respectfully, Jill Reese. From Usman Kamar, we should not rush and put kids at risk. Vaccine is around the corner. With new strain in picture and people returning from Christmas break, it would be very risky move for the board to open the schools. I would highly suggest that we should wait for another couple of months till vaccines slow down the spread. We already waited a long time, so another couple of months won't hurt anyone. Life is more important than education. Thank you. From Jessica DiBella, I'm still in complete shock you would consider sending our children back during this horrific and dangerous surge, and we haven't even hit the Christmas, New Year's Eve surge yet. This is reckless and downright negligent. You promised us you wouldn't return until it was safe to do so. Our hospitals are full, mobile morgues have been brought in, and the National Guard is assisting at our local hospitals. We have discovered the presence of the UK variant in SoCal, which has been shown to make kids far more susceptible. More infectious equals more cases equals more hospitalizations. We won't get because there is no medical help available. Please do what's right by your students and staff and push this back until we have come out of this dangerous surge. This isn't about politics. This virus doesn't care who you voted for. We need to unite to protect our children and staff. 2 children under 17 have been lost to COVID in our county, and that is too many. Do the right thing.
So Judy, we're in the last minute and a half of the 10-minute period.
From Sarah Paletti, please reconsider sending our kids back to school on January 12th is not safe. The cases are so high, the hospitals are full. Elsinore School District pushed opening to February. I'm asking a very concerned mother that you please do the same. Please do what the school board promised us when we chose remote traditional and reopen when it is actually safe to do so. From Melissa Miller, please keep school closed except for special needs children who need it badly. The COVID numbers are terrible and it's clear you can't trust families to stay at home and in their bubbles. People are too concerned with their individual rights to do whatever they want. Please consider what is better for the greater good, which would also include better virtual learning. The entire system that CNUSD has set up for families and students is one of the worst in California. Better remote and virtual learning would solve a lot of the issues. If the kids go back to school, they will very likely be yanked back and forth due to all the regulations. As you know, consistency is key for children. Yes, in-person school is best for many students in the normal world. We don't live in a normal world right now. The consistency of staying home and improving the education received at home would be much better accepted for the special needs students who heavily rely on in-person school and services. Please show students that you follow and rely on science and will not cave to pressure of people who are more into their individual rights than what is best for the greater good. From Antha.
That is the end of the 10-minute period.
Okay.
No.
All right. Mr. Pollack, on behalf of the board, we want to thank the public for their comments. And I will be sure that all of these public comments have been forwarded to you, so you have the opportunity to read through the ones that we were not able to read today due to the time constraints of the topic. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Now. Appreciate you taking the time to do that. And thank you to the public for the comments. And we apologize that all 900 plus could not have been read today. Next, on to the presentation of the board. Dr. Boone-Rostro, can you take over?
Yeah, thank you, President Pollard. So CNUSD, along with many school districts across the state, have been reaching out to Sacramento for months now for guidance in returning our students to the classroom. So this past Wednesday, the governor unveiled a Safe Schools for All plan proposal based on growing scientific evidence with the right precautions to effectively stop the spread of COVID-19. This proposal was developed in partnership with medical experts supported by the California Department of Education and also the California Department of Public Health. So today, we understand that we would like to provide you a presentation with specific guidance for for specific guidance, I'm sorry, that was released by the governor this past week, but also that he will take into action on this coming Friday, January the 8th. In accordance to his proposal, at this time, what I'd like to do is call Mrs. Dalia Valderrama, our Chief Business Officer, who will provide us a presentation, again, based on the governor's Safe Schools for All plan.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Buenrostro. I'll go ahead and share my screen now. Okay, so as Dr. Buenrostro mentioned, the Safe Schools for All plan was released by the governor as a proposal back on December 30th, just a few days ago. So we'll go over some of the details that we know about it so far and then talk about next steps. So basically, as mentioned, the purpose of this plan, so the governor clearly wants us back in school, wants the students to be back in in-person learning, and the state wants to provide that support for us and accountability to establish that clear path to help minimize the in-school transmissions and enable us to open more safely. So obviously with the surge going on right now, they want to take additional measures. And based on the scientific evidence and working with California Department of Public Health and CDE, they've worked together to put together that guidance for us. So what we know so far is that there are components of this plan that include four key pillars. The first pillar that I want to focus in on is safety and mitigation measures. One of the key areas in that pillar is testing. So as you know, previously we had our surveillance testing that was going to take place as we open schools. And that includes testing our employees every 2 months. It's cycling through every 2 months where we test all our staff. However, this new testing protocol is suggesting that students and staff get tested, and that based on our case rate in the county, we would be recommended to be testing weekly as well for asymptomatic, and then also testing any symptomatic staff or student. So there'll be more detail coming out, but this is what we know so far. Another piece of the safety and mitigation measure is PPE, the personal protective equipment. We have purchased a lot of personal protective equipment, and we had those masks ready. We received stock from the state, and they were basically considered disposable masks or face masks. And the students and the staff, based on the guidance, were allowed to wear those masks for the protection. However, now the governor is suggesting that we use the surgical masks for the staff. So those are not masks that we previously procured or received from the state. So that will be the additional protective measure that the governor wants us to do for opening the schools safely. And then contact tracing, that's a piece, obviously we were reporting to the state our positive cases, but they're going to be working in collaboration with us and providing more support and communication to help us implement more rigorous contact tracing. Also vaccinations, as we know, those have been coming out. So the school staff is going to be prioritized in the distribution of vaccines through the spring of 21. So all these pieces here are one of the four pillars of this plan. The last three pillars, one of them is oversight and assistance. That one is supports from the state. So what they're doing right now, basically as Dr. Buenrostro mentioned, we've been doing all of this by reading our materials and getting up to date on the state guidance and the county public health guidance, and we're putting together our plans. However, now they're going to be providing us with more support, technical assistance, training, help in putting together the plans, hosting webinars, and additional support. And then the third pillar, transparency and accountability, they're developing a state dashboard, and that one is going to be open to the public, showing all the schools in the state and talking about their opening status, their transmission, the in-school transmission data information, and also the available level of funding for the schools. In addition, they're proposing having a web-based hotline that would be accessible to the public and the staff as well, to be able to report anything, to make sure that we're following all that guidance. So if there are any issues at the school level, they would be reported up to the state through this hotline. And then lastly, the fourth pillar is funding. They are looking at funding schools a minimum of $450 per ADA to help support that safe reopening, because obviously these are additional measures that will include additional cost. So some key dates that we know about so far. On January 8th, which is on this coming Friday, the new school guidance for reopening will be released. There was previously a school guidance as well that we've been following, and then the Riverside County Public Health adopts that and gives us that guidance. So we've been following that. However, there's going to be new detail coming out on January 8th. Some of it obviously is the detail of the plan that I just mentioned, but it will be more outlined on exactly what the protocols are and what we need to do next. February 1st is another key date. That's the date for our school district to be submitting that updated COVID-19 safety plan. And that plan needs to be up to date with the Cal OSHA guidelines. We have new guidelines, and we have Tracy Payne has been working on that to update our plan. And then also that new school guidance that's coming out on Friday, whatever the requirements are there or recommendations, those will be submitted in that. And we have to submit that to the Riverside County Office of Education. And then on February 16th, the expectation from the state is that by then schools must offer that in-person instruction for at least TK through 2. They're looking at a phased-in approach, but obviously we can still open the TK through 6 since we have our waiver at that time. So in summary, just basically, with that COVID-19 surge, it's imperative that we do update our safety plan to be compliant with the new school guidance from the state. However, as you know, by opening on January 5th, it's earlier than the release of that guidance, which comes out on the 8th. And that's going to be giving us more detailed information. And as a school district, we are always looking at the latest and most up-to-date guidance so that we can ensure that we're reducing transmission in school and bringing back our staff and students as safely as possible. So this is just to summarize some of those differences that I mentioned in the updates in the governor's plan. We know surgical masks are something additional that will be provided for the staff. As I mentioned, we were using the regular disposable face masks that were provided. We're going to be looking into that COVID-19 testing for students and staff. So that's a much larger volume than what we were prepared to do for staff only. And then obviously the vaccinations are coming our way, and they're going to be prioritized for the teachers, and they'll be available in that priority phase. And just note that if we were to do additional safety protocols based on this new guidance, which is what we would want to update, it would be if we were opening before the guidance comes out on January 8th, we would be changing midway through our protocols. So it could cause disruption or confusion for staff and students, and possibly risk some of the not optimize in reducing those in-school transmissions. So I kind of went through it pretty quickly. I'm just going to open this up for questions and answers.
Hey, Delia, I'd just like to make a comment, and I think you might have mentioned it to begin with. This is a proposal, so the governor will be providing his budget this coming Friday, January 8th. And there's still some massaging to do, so we want to be clear. We don't want to say that all of this is engraved in stone, because it's not. However, as we know, there's a super majority up in Sacramento, and pretty much what things are not probably going to change that much.
Correct. Thank you, Dr. B.
Talia, do we know of any of the strings attached to this? I'm sure there's something to the money.
So it's a comprehensive plan that has those 4 pillars. Like Dr. Buenstro mentioned, we're going to have more details coming out January 8th. So they all kind of work together. So in order to comply with all that criteria for the additional safety protocols, the funding will be provided. So you would need to be meeting all of that criteria in order to receive the funding, which is part of the full comprehensive plan. It wouldn't be doable if we didn't have the funding for it.
Okay, I have a couple questions, please.
Yes.
Okay, so first of all, I sent you some information requesting how much money have we already spent on PPE for our staff and our students?
We have spent approximately $2.5 million, and that came from our CARES Act funding, and that's just for the PPE, including the masks, the shields, face shields, desk shields, sanitizers, and so on, all the pieces that were in the current guidance for our safety protocols.
And according to the Riverside County Public Health officers, and especially Dr. Kaiser, is this ample safety? Is this proper protocol at this point in time?
At this point in time, correct. And then as the governor's plan gets updated, then usually the local county public health would want us to follow, and then they update their guidelines as well. We always, as a school district, try to go with the most restrictive or the most protective as possible.
Correct. So according to our waiver, we are ready and set to go with the protocol for PPE we have right now.
Correct. According to the waiver at the moment, yes.
Okay, so if we open up the schools January 5th and we put in a request to obtain ADA from the additional ADA from the governor's plan, will our recommendation be not accepted if we go ahead with our plan to open schools January 5th and January 12th?
The two are not particularly tied together. However, if we were to open and we end up having to shut down schools because of in-school transmission and we haven't taken the latest protocols into consideration, that can risk us closing some schools, and then we would be changing midway through to adhere to the new guidelines.
And my other query is, why is the new surgical mask only available to the staff? I think that if you're going to have precautions, that the students should also get those masks. And we know for a fact that those student masks are going to be a little bit more expensive because they have to be fitted to the child.
Yes, so the surgical masks look the same like the disposable masks that we've been providing. They're the blue mask that you kind of wear across your face. It's different than the ones that get fitted. The ones that get fitted is the N95 masks. Right. And those are more like the respirator, and that is more recommended for nurses or frontline. So for now, there's saying we upgrade the masks, not to just the disposable mask, but more of a medical grade, but they look the same, and I don't believe they need to be fitted.
But am I wrong that those are also disposable? They're not supposed to be wearing them day in and day out?
Correct. Yeah,
Correct.
They are disposable. So the state, when they provided the disposable masks previously, they only gave us a 2-month supply. And that is why we had to spend a couple million to buy additional supply. And then we still have from our CARES funding to keep replenishing because it is disposable. The ones that they are saying surgical masks are also disposable, but the governor is making the commitment to provide, he said millions of masks, meaning it's not just a 2-month supply. They are going to continue sending us masks.
And so what's going to happen with the $2.5 million of PPE that we've already spent?
So the PPE that we currently have can still be used on students, because the recommendation right now is the surgical masks for the adults, because I think the rate of transmission, through adults, they want to make sure that's the most protective. And then the disposable masks, we can still use them for the students. But of course, we would look at the guidance that comes out January 8th and make sure we comply with that.
So the teachers are not only getting these masks that we have right now, they're also getting face shields too. So you're talking about a double protection for them at this point in time until we get access to those new surgical masks. So according to our protocol right now, would the teachers be safe with the face shield and the masks that we have right now?
As far as we know, we were following the latest guidelines, but now based on this scientific data, they are suggesting this additional surgical masks to be used. So
what does that scientific data say? I didn't see it.
That's based on the release of the governor's plan. So it is saying that now we want the adults or the staff wearing surgical masks.
Elia, a quick question. What's a time frame? Look, I know that you have to, we have to get more information on the 8th, but what's the time frame of getting these new surgical masks to us in hand where we can give to our staff and teachers? Do we have any idea when that could be brought about?
Yeah, to be honest, Mr. Pollock, we don't know exactly. We know that his commitment, the governor's commitment, is to have schools offering the in-person instruction no later than February 16th. So I would assume that we would be receiving those earlier. However, I would have to wait till January 8th to find out more detail on that in the school guidance.
And any of the masks that we already have, I know that we have the disposable ones you already said, but any of the allotments that we have already, are any of those surgical masks that you know of?
No, we were procuring the same thing we received from the state, which are just the disposable masks.
Okay. And then another quick question on the testing. So the testing is obviously important. I mean, I know that all this data is changing and people want us to go by, by data. The American Academy of Pediatrics just, again, after our meeting, announced on the 29th that between November 12th and December 24th, 2 million children have been diagnosed with COVID. So it doubled between the 12th and the 24th of December. So the testing link to me is important. I want to make sure, though, if we're going to be testing kids, is it the saliva test? It's not going to be the nasal swab, correct? Are we going to have that availability that you know of from what you've seen?
Yes, I believe we have Tracy Payne here, and she had done some research on the testing, so I'll have her step in.
Yeah, thank you, Dahlia. So it looks like there's a partnership with the state of California Valencia branch lab, and they put out some guidance on what that looks like. So it is a self nasal swab. So it would be monitored, like a kit that they receive. So they have a nasal swab, swipe it in, put it in the kit, and then that's monitored and sent into the lab for response within 24 to 48 hours. For children ages 13 and under, the parent would need to be present, give permission, and it's up to the parent whether they do the nasal swab for the child or the child's able to do it for themselves.
So it is a nasal swab?
It is a nasal swab.
Mr. Pollock, the data that you just referred to, was that a national number of kids, or was that particular to our region and also to our schools?
From my understanding, that was a release on December 29th from the AAP, and I believe it's a national number.
It's a national number. Do you have any numbers for our region?
No, I do not.
Thank you.
Tracy, I have a question or a comment. I know that adults do not like the nasal swab. How are we going to do that to children? I mean, I don't see that happening.
So there's two types. There's the nasal swab that just goes slightly in the nasal cavity, does the 2 circles one way, 1 circle the other. I believe I've taken a couple of tests. The nasal swab that you're referring to goes all the way in the back of the nose and then connects. And then there's that separate all the way in the back of the throat. So that's a little uncomfortable. I don't believe that this asymptomatic screening is requiring it to go all the way to the back of the nasal cavity. It's just enough to get the mucus on that swab. So a little less invasive, similar probably to the saliva test, is just getting enough of the mucus to actually test.
Dolly, I have another question for you.
Yeah.
This is Lisa. You're saying that the governor's proposal will include vaccinations. 2 days ago, Corona Regional offered vaccination to their health providers. 40% of them declined. Okay, so are we saying that we're going to force our teachers to take these vaccines so we can open up the school door? That's a big question we have to consider too as well. At this point in time right now, our teachers can open up without having a vaccination. Obviously, it's not available, but again, we have to consider that as well.
Yeah, I see your point, Ms. Marroquin. I know that when we wait for that guidance on January 8th, it's all going to depend on how it's mandated. And I know there'll be some negotiable pieces probably. So if Glenn would like to step in on and talk about that.
Yes, thank you, Dahlia. Yeah, just to reiterate Dahlia's point, we do not yet have the guidance that specifies whether the vaccination will be required or not. That will, once we know what the requirement will be, whether it's a mandate or not, we would negotiate any of those impacts and effects and be ready to implement. But until we get further guidance from the state, we simply don't know whether there'll be a mandate on the vaccination or not.
Ms. Marroquin, I just want to add to the point that you brought up about the 2 million. Just to add that on January 5th, the American Academy of Pediatrics, they will be releasing data on their testing, hospitalization, and mortality data that they have. So yeah, that was the second part of the study that I read. And again, I believe that's national. I don't know if they'll regionalize it, but just wanted to add that.
Mr. President.
Yes, Dr. Lawless.
Yeah, just a comment on the American Academy of Pediatrics. Whether it's last week or this month or this coming months, what it shows is that children are not immune to COVID-19. That is really the main point of that research, whether it's locally or nationally, they can get infected. Because locally, we have anecdotal data from the letters from our constituents that some kids here in Corona Norco have been infected with COVID-19. We have it on the letters. And so the big picture is that kids can get infected. The other one I want to comment on is the big picture of why are we even talking about this? Why is Riverside targeted? Well, because we have high infection rate. Our transmission rate is also high. We have deaths in our area. Medical care is problematic. Testing we talked about. The state is saying, yeah, there will be testing. We also talk about vaccine locally here in our board, and it's coming. So I think we're connected with the state. But also I would like to mention the spontaneous signature, the 3,000 signatures that we got from parents and local citizens opposing the opening of our school next week. That is a very important.
Who posted that petition, Dr. Lawless? Who posted that? I didn't see it.
It was sent to the superintendent, I was told.
Okay, well, I didn't see it, so I don't know where you're getting the data from.
Yeah, but it exists, and I'm sure Dr. Buenrostro, if you want to give a copy, it's not my petition, I just got a copy. So it's nearly 3,000 local citizens, and these are parents. Transparency. They've called me. Is this a good idea? Said you can do whatever you want if it satisfies your need to voice out your opinion. So nearly 3,000 of our citizens have done this, and so we don't need to ignore that. And I appreciate the effort of those parents who did that. And so the other thing I would like to comment about is that when we write our own proposal for this, it says we start working on it on February the 1st, right? When will we get the result? Do they need to approve it? Does the state, because I wrote proposals all the time. And when you write a proposal, it needs to be approved by the state.
And negotiated too,
yes,
Dr. Lawless.
That's right. So what is the timeline? The state says by February 16, we need to have the in-person instruction. And I don't want this yo-yo, we got it from our constituencies. We got this yo-yo thing. We do it. Now February 16, we're gonna do it if we wanna do it. But is that realistic to achieve? So we've got to be transparent with our community what it is that we plan to do. I think writing that proposal to be submitted on February 1st, when do we get the result? And when do we really start a solid date to do in person? Because the thing is, if you said February 16, if the transmission rate is still high and the infection is still high and we're seeing kids being infected, what do we do? Do we tell the community we're gonna extend it again? So I think with this guidance from the state, we need to have a real solid local plan. And I might even go forward of organizing our own, we call it task force, but I call it united front of people from different sectors, conservative, radical, progressive, whatever, to really be involved in this decision making. So, my comments. Thank you.
Mr. Pollitt?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm under the, I received some letters from a mental task force that we have in the district. And I want to know how long this task force has been in session. And this is the first that I've heard of it. And they sent me a letter this morning. Can someone answer that for me?
You know, Lisa, I would have to, just to protect confidentiality, I don't know who this, I mean, we have a task force for the district that we've had in place for 3+ years. And that the mental health task force that I oversaw as instructional support. That's a formalized district task force. But the one that you're referring to, it doesn't sound, I was going to ask you, who is that? Is that coming from our employees?
That's what it said here on the title. It says Mental Health Task Force, concerns for the CNUSD students urgent. And so it was sent to all of us this morning.
Yeah.
And they had a couple of things here regarding a letter from Dr. Lawless, and that the parents did not get to respond to the letter. And then even from our city council here, Todd Rigby wrote, Dr. Lawless has recently shared a letter he wrote claiming this is a social and an educational justice issue. You are absolutely right. This is an injustice issue to force students to learn only through remote learning and not give them the option to learn through traditional on-campus education, which we know is better way of educating. Is his letter. He also stated, you have to listen to educators and health providers. It is disappointing to see this stated in Dr. Lawless's letter, but he is not doing so. Again, the public health department has said it is safe for students to return, thus have issued and never revoked the waiver that was granted to return K-6 students to campus. They understand and trust the process the district has in place. If it were not safe, there would have been a waiver granted. So this is I'm getting conflicted information since you announced that we would have this meeting. And then even till this morning hours, right before we started the meeting, I'm still getting letters from parents who did not have their voices heard.
Yeah, just for clarification, that task force is not CNUSD.
Okay.
Not a district task force.
Okay, but this task force is telling me that Dr. Lawless has been writing to them and giving them information.
Okay, I'd like to interject real quick, if that's okay. And I just want to explain a couple of things. The first is the reason for the meeting, the why for the meeting. I understand the frustration. I understand the cynicism and the anger over another meeting. Believe me, I mean, just 5 days ago, I sat on the dais and stated my frustration with this back and forth. So again, I apologize, but listen, we're getting thousands of emails to be the voice, right? And for everyone that we get on one side of this issue, we're getting another one on the other side of this issue. Very, very, very divided, right? So we're all 5 individuals. So because of this, we can't say one thing or the other. We have to take our personal experiences and biases and subjectivity in the decision that we make. I want to have some objectivity in the decision. So unfortunately, the state, which our district and every district in the state has been asking for guidance, and it came, but unfortunately, 2 days after our last meeting. So I feel that we've been asking for this. We've been looking for this direction. Yes, we have local, we have county. That's very, very important. But this is a pandemic. We've never navigated, anybody has never navigated through a pandemic. We have to make decisions for, I don't know, roughly what, 100,000 people when we look at our students and our families and our teachers and our staff and our business people in the community. We have to make that decision. So I want as much objective educational data that I can. So again, unfortunately, I apologize. I wish that we would have had our meeting on Wednesday and we would have gotten the information on Monday. I think it would have helped, but I believe that, you know, again, I apologize for the back and forth, but when we have the ability to get more factual information from the state to make an informed decision, I don't apologize for that. The second thing I want to say real quick, okay, is I want to speak to the board for a second, okay? I want you all to know how much I love you like brothers and sisters. I truly respect all of you, and I understand what you're going through because I'm going through it as well. We all have different perspectives, viewpoints, biases, experiences. And I know just like me, you guys are putting in that time and researching everything for the last 9 months. We're never going to fully agree, and that's a good thing, but I respect you for that. But I want you guys to remember this book, this government's handbook, which together, all of us took part in developing and signing. We need to remember, maybe we need to meet in closed session 15 minutes before and review this. And then after a meeting in closed session, 15 minutes to review it. Again, I love you guys like brothers and sisters, and I respect you. And I know, I believe that feeling goes for all of us, but I just want us to remember that. Okay, we can go on.
Mary, go ahead.
Yes, I understand right now we're at 140%. We need to get to 28%. How long is that going to take us? Till June? So we're going to be closed till how many months waiting to get down to 28% at the rate we're at right now?
So Mary, let me jump in a little bit. So the Tracy's here. The adjusted case rate for the county, and Tracy, correct me, this past Tuesday, and they monitor it and they post it every Tuesday, it was at 72.2 or 0.3. That's the number that we are looking at, the adjusted case rate. So that needs to be at 28 per 100 K. Tracy, if there's anything I missed,
Yes.
and you want to specify.
No, that's correct. So we have the overall case rate, which you're referring to, Mary, is the 140.5. But then we remove those individuals who are not active in our community that are incarcerated, and we have the adjusted case rate, and that's what we are monitored on. And that, as Dr. B said, is 72.2. It's slightly down from our last meeting, but again, the overall is up. So we just know that more of those positive cases are incarcerated. And then the percentage is the positivity rate, and that's the 22.6. So the case rate is not a percentage, it's an average of the 7-day with a 7-day lag of all those who have tested, those who have tested positive. And I'll turn it back over to you.
Okay.
So we need to drop from 72 to 28%. And if we have another peak at the end of January, how many months?
So here, let me jump in and clarify. So under current conditions, we have an approved waiver. So it's our TK6 waiver, regardless of where the case rate or the positivity rate goes, because it was put in place back in the summer. I want to say it was in August, but it was put in place when we were in the purple, which we are in the purple. But a lot of things have changed over the last few months. And that's why the state continues to make adjustments, right? So whether it's 120 or whether it's 300, I'm exaggerating here. We are currently approved to start under the waiver process that was put in place by the governor. I want to say again back in August. So we're good to go. Moving forward, what is being proposed is a case rate of 28. For this waiver, a TK2 program that was presented today by Delia. So that's that we would have to adhere to if we qualify for this program, this plan that the governor presented this past Wednesday.
Okay, can I like to piggyback on what Dr. Pollack was talking about. In fact, that we have to be objective and understand that. And I'd like the community to understand that we are talking from facts that we know, experiences that we have had. Obviously, you're in the field of medical. I was an educator, still an educator at heart. However, I do have a degree of biological sciences. Mary has been a professional for 35 years as a physical therapist. So we are coming from those ends. But however, we also receive information from others. We're not making these decisions based on our whims or our desires. And I just want to take 1 second to read from Greg White. And he says, professionally, I had no choice to stay at home with this pandemic. I am charged to protect and serve my community as a fire captain, arson investigator, and as a planning section chief for emergencies with Riverside County and throughout the nation on a federal incident management team. I understand that not every decision will be liked or right, but I do know the only way to make a right decision is to decide, act, reevaluate, and adjust based on your situational awareness. It is time to remove emotion, lessen the distance between perception and reality, and move forward with in-person instruction and react based on actual intelligence. A decision is never made on 100% intelligence, but if you are at the 51%, make a choice and continue to reevaluate and make more informed decisions. So I want to share you with that. We are hearing from the professionals out there, whether it's on one side or the other, as we're going forward. However, my question is, if we don't put our kids into school, we're slamming the doors shut. And that's not what education was all about. Education is to open up those doors for our children, regardless of their backgrounds, regardless of what we think they need. We know we need to get them in there so we can find out what they need and help them along in their pursuit of a happy life. And right now they do not have a happy life.
Thank you. Mr. Z, do you have any comments?
Yeah, I'm purposely being quiet. On our meeting on the 28th, I think I was pretty clear as to why I voted to not go back. That hasn't changed 5 days later. If anything, the governor's new stuff, and I have a feeling that vote might have been different on the 28th had the governor talked on Monday and we did our meeting on Wednesday, as opposed to the way it worked out. Us doing our meeting Monday and his doing his briefing on Wednesday. One of the big things that, and I will say again, on November 10th, I absolutely voted to go back to open. But and there again, being redundant, the numbers at that time didn't even come close to reflecting where we are today. And a lot of their argument is, well, kids, if they do get it, they come through it pretty good. And I'm not going to argue with that science. I mean, the numbers of kids that one is too many. But the fact is, we really have to think not just about our children. We have to think about our staff. We are a community of school, and that community includes all of our staff, from teachers to the secretaries to the custodial staff, each and every one of them. And yesterday, and I talked with Sam for quite a bit yesterday, as I'm sure you all did, but in addition to that, I got a lot of calls from people, just not just the emails. I'm talking actual telephone calls of people who have gotten it in their family and have lost somebody, or been just really, really sick And I won't say any names, but there are people in our cabinet that are in front of me that have had pretty severe cases too. And we've had some death there as well. On November 10th, that wasn't the case. I mean, I knew one person, an acquaintance who had passed. I knew a few people had it, came through it. But for me, and I can only speak for me, it's a different ballgame today. And I have to look out for all the people under my care. So I can't, and like I said, I'm not going to change my vote. My vote on the 28th was no, and truly trying to take care of our entire community, even if it's not a teacher, even if it's not a student, not a parent, not a staff member. I still think our charges, and maybe I'm going a little too far, and I know I'm going to get some emails on where I'm going with this, but we, as a community, we need to look out for one another. And you know, I've been one that all along has said, you know what, we need to open. This is ridiculous. And I still think it is. But first and foremost, I need to think of our people, and I mean all of our people. So with that, I'm going to stop. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Z. Dr. Lawless?
Yes, to be quick. Yeah, we keep talking about data, okay? There are two forms of data. The quantitative data, it's in front of us. Infections rate, I don't need to tell you all the metrics. We know the quantitative data. It's high, it's bad. The qualitative data is important too, and that's what Mr. C is talking about. Losses, deaths, opinions, the 3,000 signatures, those are qualitative data. They're both in front of us. And then you talk about being objective. You can be objective if you pay attention to these two sets of data and then say, where do we go from here? It's very clear, guys. Qualitative and quantitative, it's very clear. We cannot open next week. Thank you.
Mary, any comments?
Yes, we have 3,000 students in school right now. Of course, we're on winter break, but they've been there maybe now, what, 2 months? We've had no outbreaks, and these have been elementary, junior high, and high school. These are the kids that are the most needy, that need it right now. Our special ed students, our ELs, our homeless students who need this. We keep talking about equity. Every single meeting we talk about equity. Where is the equity in this right now? Yes, I understand what is happening around us, but our students, they need to be back in school. Our parents need choices. We need to give them the choices. If they want to go back, they go back. If not, then they stay on virtual. But we need to give our parents this choice. And we keep voting and voting and voting on the same thing.
Thank you, Mary. Lisa? Any other comments?
Yes,
Lisa?
I'm just, yes, I do. And my comment is, yes, we have to be objective. We have to look at the data, but we also have to look at reason. What is the benefit of keeping the school closed for the kids? We're not trying to kill them. We're trying to teach them. We're trying to give them somewhere where they're going to feel safe and somewhere where they're going to feel that they can pursue their educational goals. We're not doing that by closing the door. Not every child is getting the same education. Okay, and we're hearing that all the time. We're hearing all of this. And the biggest thing, I have 3 issues. And my first issue is what's happening to the children in the more impoverished areas. When are they getting their meals? Are they getting breakfast? Are they getting lunch? Some of them are not even getting that on a weekly basis because they can't come to school, nor do they have the transportation to get to school. For months, Mary and I have been helping our neighbors get food. However, that's not enough. It's not enough for them. Nutrition is number 1. Number 2, our number of students that are being abused. How are we dealing with that? You can only see so much on a screen. We're all hiding behind the screen right now. You don't know what's actually going behind our doors. But when the teachers are there and see these children, they can protect them. We're not seeing that right now. So the bottom line is, what is the benefits to the kids by closing the doors? We have approval for our TK waiver. Right now, we've had it since October, and it keeps getting declined and passed back and back and back. And I'm under the same pretense as Mary. I do not want to keep the doors closed till June, which until we get those numbers, that's what it's going to look like. If you guys want to close it, then close it all the way till June, and also close all the cohorts too. Close them all, be equity based. Okay, that's what I would recommend, because if you're going to do it to one, you must do it to all. That is not fair. Thank you.
Dr. Lawless.
I'm gonna put on my hat here as a professor, as a professional. I think you guys don't know the definition of equity. We put equity when they really need them, when it is safe. You know, we provide service, attention to all of those. And the impact of COVID-19 is disproportionately negatively impacting the minority kids in this community. Even the classified personnel, they're having problems right now. There's one who's dying in a ventilator, a classified staff. So when we talk about equity, it's a program, it's a service, it's attention we give them whenever they need them, when it is safe. At this moment, it is not safe. I know. How do you define safe? Well, look at the quantitative data. Look at the qualitative data. Then you decide, is it really safe? Because I can even ask Dr. Benrostro, how do you define safe? We need to depend on the data in front of us to really decide what it is. The next question I want to ask is, with this data that you presented to us, Dr. Benrostro, what is your cabinet and your professional, advisors around you trying to recommend?
I'm going to get to your question, Dr. Lawless, in a second. Specific to your question, are you referring to, and I'm not politicking or anything, are you referring to the start of whether we start or not? Because I think I gave my answer 5 days ago, just like we all talked about. My recommendation there is that we wait till the 19th, and that's from talking to staff. So that's it. I think today's focus, and I want to bring it back. I know there's a lot of emotion in the room, but today's focus, the focus right now, I should say, to bring it back to our agenda, is to talk about the presentation that Delia provided right now. That's where we are at with the agenda. So as far as the district, we as a district, as a staff, we're ready to execute, and we will, regardless of where the votes go. And obviously that's my job. But I think as far as the presentation, and I want to bring it back to the presentation, I know we're going to get to the deliberation of the board as to if we're going to reconsider the start date again, and if so, what that decision will be. But as far as the presentation and questions that were presented today, and data that was presented today, that's the governor's plan, and I think it's important that we know that, especially for you as a board, whether it changes your mind or not. It is what it is. If you don't have any more questions related to Delia's presentation, I think we can transition, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Pollack. We can transition to the actual deliberation, which is item 4 on the agenda. And I'm just trying to keep us focused, and I know everybody has spoken, and you'll have an opportunity to continue to speak. But I already gave my recommendation, and that's not going to change.
Thank you, Dr. Benrostro. I think that what you just saw was primarily the deliberation, in my opinion. So now I'm not going to if there's some more comments, that's great. But I've let everybody speak, and so I'm going to speak. because I wanted to provide publicly and to the board on my vote on Monday. And I'm going to do this because I'm president right now and I get to, but also because I've put in the position of being the swing vote, and it's probably going to be that way today. So I've been answering a lot of emails and explaining my rationale. I'm not asking people to accept it, but I wanted to provide that. And I think I owe you that opportunity. And it's also going to save me, about 1,000 emails to respond to when these people hear it. So some of you have received this letter, but I'm just gonna briefly summarize a little bit. I want to preface it to let you guys know that it was not a rushed decision on Monday. I've literally been thinking about COVID like you guys, schools, students, and teachers since March. I know you guys have too, but I can't get away from it between work and my school board responsibilities. That's all I see. I see patients suffering from COVID who've passed away, living in fear of COVID. I have a lot of children and adolescent patients who are in fear of COVID. Some of them have had COVID, but they have fear of isolation, depression, anxiety. It's heartbreaking. We all see it. And with that being said, my personal struggles with this pale to what some of our staff and teachers have been going through with the loss of somebody. We've all seen the emails and our hearts go out to those families. But like most of my decisions, I put pluses and minuses on the table. So the minuses for going back, obviously the COVID numbers in our community have been very alarming and overwhelming. And I am aware of these. People want to make sure that I'm aware of them. I am. The last vote that we had a while ago in November, I think John mentioned it. I wanted to delay the opening from November to January because I knew that there was going to be a surge. Little did I know it was going to be a surge upon a surge, but I knew that. And I knew that schools were going to get the blame for that. And I know that schools weren't involved. And we saw that. Schools were not to blame for that surge. But regardless of where that surge is coming from, it's concerning. Next, the burden on our ICUs, our hospitals, our ERs, and our healthcare providers, and you guys know I'm one of them. I feel extremely bad and concerned, and I truly don't want to put any more burden on them. I did reach out to many of my colleagues who have kids, and I asked them, and it was about 50-50, like everything with this. Some say no way, others say, hey, our kids need school. In fact, unfortunately, some have transferred from CNUSD to private schools so that their kids could resume an education in person. And then lastly, you all know my wife's a teacher in this district, and like every other teacher, every other staff member and student, I want her to be safe. I know she follows all the CDC recommendations, that are in place to mitigate this illness, but I don't know about the people around her. So I'm nervous. I'm nervous for her and all our other students and teachers, okay? Now the pluses that I made my vote for, I believe at the time of the presentation and the vote last Monday, I believe in our safety plan and our procedures. I felt at that time they would truly be successful and keep our teachers and our staff and our students safe. And I based that on our small cohorts. Like Ms. Ibarra said, 3,000 students participating. Now that was, I don't know when they ended, Dr. Benrostro, with the holidays, probably about December 15th or so maybe, or
18th, I believe.
Okay, so I know that as Mr. Z alluded to, was prior to this big surge too. Next, I trust our teachers and our staff. I know that they'll be vigilant through all this with the protocols when they're at the school. And as everybody has mentioned, another reason why I voted that way was to reach the needs of our at-risk students who don't have what Mary had mentioned and what Lisa have mentioned. Even though the district is doing the best we can, we have still students struggling with devices, Wi-Fi connectivity, students left unsupervised at home for whatever reason, the nutritional issue that Lisa mentioned. And then the last thing, actually 2 other things real quick, I'm sorry. But I've seen the success of the CDC recommendations. Okay, every day since March in my office, I wear my mask, I wash my hands until they're raw. I social distance until I have to do my hands-on exam. I avoid parties and large get-togethers. I believe in these guidelines, and I know our teachers and staff, I want them, you know, as educators, they could be an impetus in helping stop this spread when they educate their students and they tell their students, hey, I want you to be in the classroom with me. I want to be healthy in this classroom. Wear your mask, and maybe those students will go home to their families who may be not following these guidelines and do that. Okay, so I looked at that as well. And then lastly, providing a choice to our families. We had probably, and our staff, we probably had, and Glenn, you could clarify this for me, but I think we had to involuntarily displace about 150 teachers to virtual.
That is correct. At the beginning of the year and in the end of summer, we did about approximately 150 teachers were
involuntarily displaced these teachers. Okay, and families, you know, made the choice. We gave them the choice. Now, having said that, when we did that in I think July, that things looked a lot different than now. Okay, and if we brought out that thing, you know, that choice now, it might look different. But anyway, those were the reasons why I made my decision. So I just want everybody to be clarified on that. And some people got that message to me, but thank you. The people who are waiting for a response, that was my response. So having said all that, the main reason why I voted the way I did, you heard. However, after reading the details of the state recommendations, primarily with the surgical masks that they're recommending and the testing, I don't feel comfortable putting our students and their families and our staff in that position. I think we owe it to all to have the best safety plan. And Tracy, I'm so impressed with you and with everybody else with what you've done. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that this plan wasn't good. Again, up until we get these extra state guidelines, I thought they were good. But surgical masks, if they're what's recommended, I want to go with that. Testing, you know, you guys talk about equity. You know, the JAMA, the pediatric version of JAMA, they say that the highest risk people for testing positive and student-wise are Hispanic, African-American, and Asian-American children, and they're the ones who are not being tested. So we have that ability as we start testing these kids to help with that equity issue there. And so that's my position. Any other comments?
Yes, I have a comment. So if you're going to go down that road, Bill, then I strongly urge that all the other cohorts stop too, because we need to maintain equity. So the conditioning, the SL, because right now most of those are being, and I can understand the wear and tear on our classified staff, because they're out there doing the teaching. They're out there with the students every day. Okay, and so give them a break. Okay, and we need to close that all up right now until we've got some direct information and we can all be consistent with that. So, but I think that all those should be stopped if you're going to be equitable with the other children that want to come back. So that's what I suggest. And again, I'm imploring you, I'm saying, what is the benefits of keeping the school doors closed for these kids? Okay, so you need to do it for all, one for all.
Any other, Dr. Lawless?
Yeah. Well, yeah, since we're all giving our closing remarks, mine have not changed my mind. In fact, it got reinforced more with the involvement of parents and citizens in this community expressing their hesitation to start the school. So that's a big impetus that strengthened my resolve. I'm looking at, again, qualitative, quantitative data. It's right there in terms of what can CNUSD control. We have parents and children in our community having problems with social emotional, counseling, problems, the most vulnerables. That CNUSD can address. We can do that because that's within our control, within the control of the system. Just like what we did with the most vulnerable, the EL, the special ed. To me, although my colleague, Mrs. Marroquin, is saying, let's stop everything, that's being mechanical. That program is working for those very vulnerable kids. That's still a well-planned program for us because we can control what we do. Here's what CNUSD cannot control. We cannot control this viral tsunami we called COVID-19.
That's true, Dr. Lawless. However.
Can I speak? Can I finish?
Okay, yeah, you finish, but I need
to
hear you.
Oh yeah, go ahead. Let me finish. We cannot control the transmission. We cannot control the deaths of people dying right now. We cannot control the medical condition that is in dire need. We cannot control the testing. We need the state. We cannot control the vaccine. We need the state. All of this we cannot control. And the help is here. The governor has a new program that we can figure out how to implement it locally. Those things we cannot control. We can control how to teach kids. We can control how to mitigate the program for the most vulnerable. We can do that. And so starting next week, we cannot control the tsunami. It's gonna happen. What about the kids who are having social emotional problem? Well, Dr. Van Rostro, that's our job, right? We have a big system. We have a curriculum program. We have Dr. Simon. We have the new person that we have, Reggie Tompkins. They can deal with those problems. We can deal with those. But what we cannot control is the tsunami right now. And so that's it for me.
Okay, I like to go back. So my vote is to bring the kids back. And the reason is we are controlling that. We did make a negotiation with the union in order to have small cohorts so that the kids would be protected as well as the staff and the teachers that are on campus. So talking about control, we worked months on that in order to approve that and get it ready. Yes, it's not ideal. We know that. However, it is an opportunity for the children to step on campus. That's what they want. That's what they're begging, and that's what they need. And so again, you're talking about controlled environment. That is controlled environment when you have something that has been approved by the unions in order to get the kids back, because that is their desire. And I've heard those letters too as well.
Okay.
So I vote that we return.
So I just want to focus on the as Dr. Bunrostro said about our agenda items, but real quickly, Dr. Bunrostro, the small cohorts, those
Yeah,
are those volunteer, first of all? Are those volunteer?
First of all, they are volunteer. Secondly, if that's something that the board, and I say the board, wishes to do, that would be something we would agendize at a later meeting. But today, right now, and we, by the way, I know, again, there's a lot of emotion. I certainly understand that. I think Mr. Pollack, we want to make sure that everyone has had their opinion and an opportunity. Once we've had that, just there hasn't even been a motion made, so we will have to go there first.
So has everybody? I don't see.
Yeah, one more.
Any other comments, John?
Okay.
No, Mary. Any other comments?
Last one.
Dr.
I have this most practical comment that I would like to make. When we open, and a lot of teachers call in sick. I've been a teacher. Even though I like to teach, I love to teach, I want to be with my kids. things will happen that I have to call in sick. What's the situation in terms of our substitute pool? How are we able to ascertain?
Well, I think that was brought up at the last
Yeah.
last meeting. I think it was discussed. So what's your
My point is are we able to control the quality of the substitute coming in when the teacher is absent? It is not putting down substitute. I've been a substitute. You can teach anything. Even if you're not a math teacher, you teach it. What I'm saying is do we have a control of the quality? Because the parents are saying we need to go back. We need to go back with many substitute, which may or may not be taught or trained in those subject matter areas. Those are the type of things that we have to anticipate happening. And that's a big problem. If the quality of teaching is not high because of the quality of substitute we get, it's not a put down, it's just being realistic. Then we have a problem in terms of quality of instruction. That's a big problem. Thank you.
Okay, I need clarification from Sam. Sam, so what you said was that we would have to bring up the issue of closing all the cohorts at a different meeting. We can't address it right now because classified are exhausted. They're getting cases ongoing of COVID at work. So if we're going to close this, we should close all the cohorts. So can I make that recommendation? If we can't do it now, I want to do it before the 19th.
So as you said, what we have is so you want to make a motion or a recommendation that we agendize the cohorts, and if we want to do it before the 19th, then we would need one of two things. We would either need the president to agree to that, to have a special meeting before the 19th, or secondly, if we have three or more majority of board members who would also like to have a special board meeting, then we would have it. Those are the two ways we can do it, Mrs. Marroquin.
Okay, so I'm asking Bill, can we do that?
Okay, so Sam, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead and answer that, Bill, and then I want to go back to, anyhow, we'll continue with the comment that Dr. Lalas made, because I know Glenn was going to chime in. Go ahead.
I was going to check with my fellow board members on Lisa's recommendation.
If we're going to do that, I'd say wait till the 19th.
Yeah.
Okay. Dr. Lalas?
Yeah, I think wait.
Mary? Mary?
Yes, wait, but is that going to include also sports since we're closing everything down?
They're considered cohorts, so I in my understanding, correct? They're cohorts?
Yes, they are.
So they would be included in that. So okay, Glenn, so
Bill, just to clarify, I'm sorry. So Mary, so you're saying because I saw you nod, you're saying to wait to the 19th, is that what you're saying? Mary?
Well, if we can't go back this next week and we're closing down cohorts, since sports are cohorts, I guess that gets closed down too, right?
Yeah, let me clarify. No, that's not what the decision. What Bill is asking, what Mr. Pollock is asking is, do you agree to wait to the 19th to have that discussion then? Because that's what Mr. Z mentioned, and my understanding that's what Mr. Lalas also. So when you said yes, so you're agreeing to wait to the 19th? That's really the question.
Yes.
Okay.
okay. So I'm going to go with the majority, and we'll agendize it for the 19th. Okay, so no further comments. I'm going to make a motion and see if we get a second. So I move that we, based on the new data that has come from the governor, that we delay the scheduled return to school so we can further review and evaluate and implement the additional recommendations that are going to be given to us, and then revisit this at our meeting on the 19th after receiving the updated information. Any second?
Say it one more time. Sorry.
Did somebody write that down?
I'll
Let-
try to summarize if you like.
Let me read it again. So I move that we delay the scheduled return to school so we could further review, evaluate, and implement the additional recommendations and guidelines given to us by the state and revisit this at our next meeting on January 19th after receiving the updated information that's going to be received on the 8th from the state.
I second that motion.
Discussion?
Discussion?
I was listening to your motion. Delay, review, reconsider, state mandate, revisit. But here's the situation. I think there has to be an additional impact of organizing alongside with while we're waiting. We call it a task force, but task force is so used up that it becomes a blue ribbon committee. We need to have a group because we don't have that. That's an amazing thing about Corona Norco. We don't have a task force COVID-19. That's happening in other school districts. That's why they're not in this kind of messed up problem that we have. From day one, they have the parents and everybody involved in that task force. We don't have that. So with this motion, so we don't repeat the same problem when we get to the 19th. Let's have a group of people in the community. As I've said, leftists, rightists, middle of center. Let them discuss and talk about it. In my study of movements around the world, it's called United Front. They have to establish a points of unity and talk it over. I know we represent the community, but we need that group to give them voice. Okay, this is a special situation. This is pandemic. A special group, a special team, not too big, where they can have opposing different ideas, affirming, reinforcing. We need that. Otherwise, we will find ourselves in the same situation on the 19th. In that way, we're together, okay? If this passes, we're together. We want to start on the 19th. But alongside, we have a group of people voicing, monitoring. So we're all on the same page, helping us, guiding us.
Just for clarification, this motion did not say starting on the 19th.
It's not.
Revisiting, just
Right.
okay. Any other discussion pieces on that? Any addendums to what Dr. Wallace said?
Well, yeah, I would like to have a friendly amendment and add that component. Mr.
Bill, I want to go back and just clarify your motion. So you like to delay and review, and when you're referring to review, you're looking at the governor's on January the 8th, he's going to present his plan. And then our staff will then obviously work with Riverside County office and all the other resources up in Sacramento. And for the 19th, you would like a presentation. I kind of read an update. Is that correct? I'm just trying, but I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Yeah, I want to take the information that's going to be released on the 8th, specifically, the whole plan, but specifically testing and surgical masks, when that could be implemented in our district, how it's going to be. I want to plan by the admin how that's going to be implemented. When are we going to start testing? How are we going to do that testing? I want that plan. I want to know how we're going to get through all these surgical masks to our staff. Is it going to include students as well, as Ms. Marroquin had asked? So there's a lot of questions. I know you guys took notes. We had a lot of questions, but we need to know on the 19th where we're at so that we could feel comfortable with a start date. I don't know if that changes the second, John.
No, you're saying basically the same thing. So we're going to revisit on the 19th, see where we're at.
and I hate using that term, but again, this is a pandemic, and we're learning along the way, and we need to utilize this information that the state is releasing, and you need to utilize the funds, in my opinion. And I think that again, I wish we had this information prior so that we could jump on it, and unfortunately, it came out on the 30th. But I think it's pertinent enough. Again, we talk about, I brought up the 1 million children who've been diagnosed, and again, that's I understand what you're saying, Lisa, that's a national number, but the fact is, from November 12th to December 24th, that number has doubled by 1 million, and those children, though it's been shown that they don't necessarily have severe illness, they can potentially bring it into school, and transmission can happen, and we have to think about our teachers and our staff, and I want them to have the best safety PPE and the testing to mitigate. Dr. Fauci was very loud and clear about the importance of schools. He actually said, I don't know if anybody saw his interview, but he actually said that it's been shown that the children are safer at schools than at home and in the community. Okay, and that's important. That's where we could be the impetus, in my opinion, to stop this pandemic. We could utilize it. However, we have to do it smartly and with what we have. And I applaud Dr. Lawless. Months ago he was talking about testing, and I really wasn't a huge proponent of it. But listening to Dr. Fauci, looking at the CDC recommendations and the guidelines, I think that's a vital tool now. So I've changed and I've evolved along that way. And so that this is the reason I want to make it clear why I'm changing my vote is I based my last vote on the safety plan, and now there's a chance in the middle of this worst part of the pandemic. I get people's fear and frustration. We need to offer the most we can to everybody. So anyway, any more discussion on this? Lisa.
Hello. Yes. That's the reason I wanted to have, because if you were going to go that way, where we're going to wait till the 19th to discuss, I think that if that information is available on January 8th from the district, I'd like to talk to it before we actually meet on the 19th, so we could have a special time to talk about what research has been released and how will it be part of our decision making. However, we also have, like in East Bell, we do have a parent committee. Why haven't they been invited to these meetings? Why? And so there, that's another thing. We do have some of these committees already in place, and we haven't met with them in a long time. So this is something we need to consider.
You're piggybacking on Dr. Lawless's recommendation or amendment, it sounds like, to get some type of COVID task force and invite, you invite some.
No, I'm not necessarily piggybacking, but what I'm asking is that we meet before the 19th. I don't want to have a discussion and then continue the discussion to the end of the month. That's what I'm trying to avoid. What I'm trying to avoid is so that we can make some good decisions with the information that we get right away, not just to sit on it. That's what I'm asking.
Would it be more like a study session based, because, okay, so Dahlia and staff, Dr. Benroster, the governor will release his information on the 8th. Okay, so that gives you the weekend to delve into it. I don't know what type of timeline, Dr. Benroster, would you expect to be able to get that information, decipher it, and tell us how it's going to be implemented in CNUSD. What do you, give me a guess? I mean, I was thinking the 19th, that would give you 10 days. We have Martin Luther King Day in there, I believe, somewhere. But give me a time frame for Lisa's question.
Yeah, so the governor on Friday, next Friday, the 8th, when he makes his presentation, sometimes word gets out a little bit, so you're able to get a little bit ahead of things. But during the weekend, a lot of information gets disseminated. We also, by the time it will come down to the county office, and that takes some time as well. There's a lot of nuances with this type of work, so we won't have clarity because this is new work being done as we go. So for us to have a presentation on the on the 19th as it is cutting it short, but we understand the concerns. So certainly on the Tuesday, the 19th, we'd be ready. Anything above that, we can have study sessions, updates, but for us to say that we would have an action plan, we wouldn't have it. But if the board wants to meet and have a study session based on the information that we're getting from Sacramento, sometime the week of the 15th, we can certainly do that if that's what you would like.
Yes, that's what I would suggest. At least it's some information that we can digest and do some research on our own in order to get make a good decision on the 19th. So it's hard to come to a meeting and we don't have any prior information 24, at least, before 24 hours before we have a meeting. So. Yeah,
so my recommendation, Mr. Pollack, would be, and board would be that if we're going to have a study session for the board in preparation for our board meeting on the 19th, that we do it either Friday the 15th or Friday the 15th. That would be my recommendation.
I don't know. I would like us to just, if you could just send us you've been really good on sending us the information, and then we discuss it on the 19th, would be what I would like to see. We've all done our research. Yeah, we'll have some more on the 8th, but I really feel like we can discuss through it on the 19th with what you have. And you've already said you're going to be stretched to give that to us on the 19th. It seems like an oxymoron to say, well, let's meet on the 15th then. Like I said, I would maintain we stick with the 19th.
Yeah, I disagree on that, because if we go live, then we have the opportunity to hear from some more of our community members. 20 minutes just hearing these community members' concerns is not enough. And so we're actually affording an opportunity for example, East Falls committee to come and talk if they prefer to do that in person. Again, what we see here is behind a screen. I want to hear people in person and what they're feeling and what's going on, and they need to know this information too.
Okay.
And
Mr. President.
So go ahead, Dr. Lalas.
Yeah, I was just going to ask Dr. Benrostro and Mr. Pollack, do you think giving you 2 months will be good? Will be, including the 19th meeting, 2 months, really projecting that in 2 months, our plan is to really do it in person. Is that, given the state mandate, that what's going on around us, will 2 months okay for you to take care of all of those business of writing the proposal, getting the money, talking about the vaccine, the testing and all of that? 2 months. And I want to give a time frame. Otherwise, we'll be going on and on.
Okay,
tell
so
me, what's your thinking?
I want to bring back the group a little bit, because we're having other comments which are great, and we certainly can address those. Dr. Lalas, the 2 months, I mean, we're never going to be perfect. We're never going to be ready. You may remember that in Delia's presentation, I believe it's February 15th, and Delia, correct me if I'm wrong, that's actually the start that the state is projecting right now, correct?
Correct. Yeah, we need to submit to Riverside County Office of Ed by February 1st, the updated safety plan and all the other criteria.
Yeah, so like anything else, this is one of those that not ideal, but it's the plane up in the air, and we're redesigning it or as we go. That's again, we're in a crisis. So I would like to bring the group back to, if I can, I'll go back to Mr. Pollack with the motion that you've had. I know that Dr. Lalas mentioned the stakeholder group. I do want to add that we have a stakeholder group that has been operating with parent representations, with different divisions, union representation. That's certainly something that we have and we will continue to do. But I'd like to set that aside for now. What I think we need to do is decide first of all on the motion, and we can always edit, change, update, whatever you want to do to the stakeholder group.
Yeah, I agree with that. I like the idea of the group, but I think we have things that we could implement, not involving the motion. So, okay, so any other discussion?
Can you repeat the motion, please, Dr. Benrostro or Mr. President?
I'll do it succinctly. So the motion is to delay the start, and the start would be for January 5th and the 12th, and to revisit on the 19th of January, which is our next scheduled board meeting, including a presentation or action plan that the district will present on that evening. That's the motion.
Okay, so did we vote on the amendment that I asked that we would have a study session?
No, we're going to come back to that, Lisa. We'd like to come back to that as soon as we either pass or not pass this motion.
Sorry.
Okay, so we have a.
I would like to make a friendly amendment. We delay, but we project. I think we need the project to settle down, to project a possible in-person instruction by the end of February or beginning of March. Then we have a goal to achieve. But we're gonna try
Our goal is to get the kids there as quickly as possible and as safely as possible. And so I want to see the information on the 19th before we project, because again, if the numbers look good and the plan looks good and we can get them there, is there a way to get them there February 1st if everything aligns, or do we have to wait till the 16th?
You can make that. You can certainly on the 19th. You can do two things. We can put a start date conversation as an item for the 19th.
I'm asking, is the earliest return February 15th or 16th, whatever was on that?
Well, okay, so if we're talking about our TK6 waiver, we can return whenever we would like, unless Riverside County Public Health or California Public Health steps in and says you can't.
I prefer not having a date because, again, at this point, I want to get the information on the 19th and go from there.
Yeah, I'm just confused with Dr. Benrostro's statement there and yours as well, because we want to start as quickly as we can. But now we're trying to write a proposal for the new SAMSNU program. Which ones do we want to adhere? Will the new program override what we have right now? Which makes sense because we're trying to adjust with everybody. Or do we want to forget our waiver right now and just follow the new proposal that we are writing? What do you think, Dr. Benrostro?
Thank you for that clarifying question.
Yeah.
So what we've discussed today and what Delia presented, which is the plan, right, still in the works by the governor. And that plan has a start date of February the 15th. So what we would do is we would meet those requirements. And for example, Cal OSHA, obviously work with our employee groups, have a plan submitted on February the 1st. And that plan would start on February the 15th. Again, subject to the state maintaining or the governor maintaining those dates that I just mentioned. So that's one. Away from that, and by the way, that plan is specific to TK2. However, we can because we have the TK6 waiver, we can move forward with our TK6 waiver included in that plan. We've already checked, so we're good to go. So as far as getting back to the January the 19th, if the board chooses, because we have the already approved waiver, we can start prior to February 15th. Delia, please jump in and correct me if I said something misspoke.
Correct. So even though we have the deadline February 1st to submit the plan, we can definitely, as soon as we find out after the guidance comes out January 8th, we can find out when we're getting that PPE, when the testing protocol can start to get administered, more information on vaccines. So that's why when we bring it back on January 19th, if we feel like, oh, we've received all these deliveries and everything is good to go, then we can just wait to submit February 1st and probably be able to open before the 16th. There's nothing telling us we can't because we have the waiver. However, we need to wait for those things that we just mentioned today due to the updated plan, and we'll find out more information January 8th. So that's what I have.
Thank you. So based on that, I don't want to put a date, Dr. Lawless, in my opinion. I'd like to keep the motion as is.
We have a motion on the floor. Let's get to it.
We have a motion and we have a second. So I'm gonna roll call. Okay, John?
Yes.
Mary?
No.
Dr. Lawless?
Yes.
Lisa?
No.
And myself, yes. So motion passes 3-2. So staff, I know that on the 8th, you're going to be getting this and work on this plan as quickly as possible for us and give us that information as quickly as possible. Right now, the difference, in my opinion, between the 15th and the 19th, I don't see a big difference. I think if they get us that information as quickly as possible, we can review it and go over it, and then we have the meeting on the 19th to discuss everything.
Okay, so just to clarify, and Mrs. Marroquin, this is coming back to your motion or your recommendation that we have a study session sometime the week of the 11th of January. As I mentioned, my recommendation, if we do have a study session, it would be that Friday. But right now, what I suggest, Mr. Pollock, is that you either approve, and I think I heard you just say that you did not want to do it, or that you would rather just have it in writing, and then on the 19th, that you or the board would be ready to discuss that information. Or you can also ask board members here and see if you get a majority that want the study session.
Okay, so Mary?
Okay, I would like to discuss, if we're getting information from the state again, I would like to be able to discuss it together. I feel if we wait then till the 19th, we are not going to be well informed of what, I don't want to get I know we get the information on Friday, but I would like to be able to discuss it with our colleagues all together.
Okay.
So on that day, we're not sitting here for 2 hours going back and forth, back and forth. That way we will already know the information and we will be ready for whatever we need to do.
Okay. So Mary, you agree and Lisa agree. John, you said no?
No. You know what? I've been doing so much research that I'm comfortable in following it and getting the additional stuff that the district office will send us as well.
Okay, Dr. Lawless?
Yeah, I don't want any more study. That's too short of a time to give us. What else can we talk about? What the quantitative data is here. qualitative data is here. I'm very much interested on what Dr. Samben Rostro and his cabinet will show. I want to see some leadership on their part to really make some good recommendations to us. Otherwise, we're all opinionated 5 school board members. We need strong, positive, data-based, research-based, strong, courageous leadership from our superintendent and the cabinet.
Okay, so thank you. So, Mary?
But that information is what we're waiting for from the state. And we've been asking and asking. And like we keep saying, it's fluid information. It keeps coming, it keeps coming. So now we're saying, we're just gonna wait for the cabinet to let us know. I trust the cabinet, but I want to hear what the state is also saying.
Yeah.
And I feel that if we wait till the 19th now, because I had already voted had already expressed that I wanted to wait, I want to be able to have the discussion with all of us, because on the 19th or whenever our next meeting is, we will be there for another hour discussing and discussing and discussing like today.
Okay. Dr. Boone-Rostro, were you going to say something?
Well, what I was going to say, if we could not agree to a study session and the board can't, then what I'd be more than happy to do is have executive cabinet and
That's
the
good.
divisions meet with our board members that do want to come in, and we can meet here or we can do it on Zoom. I'll be more than happy to provide that information. That will be mailed out, but we can certainly do it in person and provide you questions that you have and more clarity. I'll be more than happy to do that.
My request to Dr. Ben-Rostro, not just information. I want analysis of that information. Analysis, evaluative information. Chapter 5 of your dissertation. I want that, please. Thank you.
So what I'll do is I'll reach out to board members and we'll schedule a meeting here at the district office to provide all the information that we will have at that time on the 15th.
So the vote is no, then Bill? Is that what you're saying?
The vote is no. We're gonna stick with the 19th. And you guys, the staff will get as much information together as quickly as possible. I prefer to get the information if it could be before that the 15th, even if it's staggered, so that we could delve into it. Again, I agree with John. We're all doing our own research, but I agree with Mary that, hey, this is what we're waiting for. We've been waiting for the state for this information, but I think we could evaluate it ourselves, and then when we get together on the 19th, we could discuss it. With all due respect, Mary, I understand what you're talking about, but I think that the meeting on the 19th, so be it. If it's an hour that we're discussing it, it's an hour that we're discussing it. We've had long meetings before, and I think that gives us an opportunity to look at all this information.
Okay. And I would say, go ahead.
I'm just giving
Mary.
my opinion on how I felt, so that's fine.
No, I appreciate
We're all giving our own opinion, so I'm just letting you know that I would be more comfortable with all of us together discussing, so we know what we're talking about when we come into this meeting.
I appreciate it, Mary. Thank you. John?
That's okay.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, so, oh, I'm sorry, so do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
A second? Dr. Lawless, was that a second? Okay, so we have a motion to adjourn. John?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Dr. Lawless? Lisa?
Sure.
And Bill, yes. Meeting is adjourned at 12:15. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you
you
all.
all. Have a great rest of your weekend.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Ben-Rostro.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Lisa. Dr. Simon,
Have a good day.
you need to have coffee.
Yes, please.
miss talking to you. I miss our nice coffee chats. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care of yourself.
Okay, bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.